From getting a loan to applying for a job, artificial intelligence is making more and more decisions that shape our lives. And these systems, they promise us so much. They're supposed to be faster, smarter, and most importantly, fairer than any human could be. But is that promise actually real? Or are we just building our oldest biases into brand new, powerful code?
That's really the core question here, isn't it? Can we truly take our messy, unpredictable human emotions out of these critical decisions? Or are we just accidentally creating a new kind of bias, one that's faster, way harder to spot, and can affect millions of people all at once?
I mean, the vision is pretty compelling. Just imagine software that can screen thousands of job applicants in a matter of minutes or help a judge make a completely objective decision about bail. The whole goal is to build systems that aren't just efficient, but are fundamentally more equitable because they rely on pure, cold, hard data.
But that utopian vision has run into some really serious problems out in the real world. That promise of objectivity, well, it can completely shatter when these systems are actually put to use. So let's look at 3 powerful examples of what happens when good intentions go wrong.
First up, the justice system. To try and make bail and sentencing decisions more consistent, courts started using software, one of the famous ones being Compass. The whole idea was to give every single defendant a risk score based on data, to help judges make totally unbiased choices.
Well, the results were shocking. An investigation found that Black defendants were almost twice as likely as white defendants to be incorrectly labeled high risk. Now get this, the algorithm was never told the race of a defendant. It didn't need to be. It just learned from historical arrest data, which, of course, already had decades of biased policing baked right into it.
And the human cost of this was just severe. This wasn't some statistical error on a spreadsheet. It meant real people were spending more time in jail because of a faulty score. It completely shattered trust in a system that was supposed to be getting more fair, not less.
And this problem is absolutely not limited to the justice system. Let's pivot to hiring. A huge tech company built an AI tool to sort through piles of resumes. They were hoping to find the best people for technical jobs efficiently and without any of that pesky human bias.
But the AI had a huge problem. It basically taught itself that male candidates were better. Why? Because it learned from 10 years of the company's own hiring data, which was already heavily skewed toward men. It even started penalizing resumes that mention the word women's, like, say, captain of the women's chess club.
In the end, they had to scrap the whole system. The company realized that instead of getting rid of bias, they had just perfected a way to automate it at an incredible scale, making it almost impossible for qualified women to even get their foot in the door for an interview.
And believe it or not, these biases can have literal life or death consequences. Our final case comes from healthcare. A widely used algorithm was designed to find the sickest patients to get them into special care programs. And to predict who was sickest, it used what seemed like a logical shortcut: how much money was spent on their care in the past. More spending must mean a sicker patient, right?
Wrong. The algorithm ended up being racially biased. And here's why. Because of unequal access to healthcare in the US, less money is spent on Black patients than on white patients, even when they have the exact same level of need. So the algorithm saw lower spending and just assumed a lower need, systematically ignoring some of the sickest Black patients in the system.
So after hearing these stories, the big question has to be, why does this keep happening? It's not because engineers are sitting around writing evil, malicious code. The problem is so much deeper and way more subtle than that.
The root cause in almost every single one of these cases is biased data. The best way to think of AI systems is as mirrors. They don't create new biases out of thin air. They just reflect the world as it is, or more accurately, as it's been recorded in our data. So if our history is full of unfairness in policing or hiring or healthcare, the AI is going to learn those patterns and then automate them with terrifying efficiency.
So, if the data is the problem, how in the world do we fix it? Well, it really starts with a huge shift in philosophy. We need to stop asking only, is the algorithm accurate, and start asking the much more important question: who does this system help and who could it harm? This means focusing on the real-world impact, creating clear ways for people to appeal a machine's decision, and building a culture that's actually open to criticism and feedback.
Okay, so let's get practical. How does this philosophy turn into a real-world toolkit? Thankfully, experts have been working on this, and they've developed clear frameworks, like the one from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, to guide organizations.
This framework breaks the whole process down into 4 key stages. First, you govern. You set clear rules for fairness right from the start.
Second, you map the context, asking tough questions like, who could be negatively affected by this thing? Third, you measure, which means you're actively auditing your system for unfair outcomes, not just for accuracy. And finally, you manage. You create a plan to fix problems when they pop up, and crucially, to learn from those mistakes.
And for that measure stage, there are really concrete tools we can use. Teams can run representation checks to see if their system, say, approves loans for one group way more than another. They can track error rates to see if it's more likely to mess up for a certain demographic. They can even run what-if scenarios to probe for these hidden biases. So you see, this isn't just abstract theory. These are practical tests to catch unfairness before it does real harm.
But here's probably the most important takeaway of all. This is not a one-and-done fix. You don't just de-bias an algorithm and then walk away. Responsible AI is a continuous process. It's all about building the right habits into an organization's DNA.
So what do those habits look like in practice? Well, it means being radically honest about what a system can and can't do. It means constantly reviewing its impact on people after it's been launched to catch those unintended consequences. And maybe most importantly, it means creating ways for the people affected by these systems to give feedback and actually be heard.
This quote just really captures the essence of it all. It's a culture shift. It's moving away from that old move fast and break things mindset to one that values openness about mistakes, humility about how complex these problems are, and a constant commitment to learning and getting better. Which leaves us with this final thought. If AI is simply learning from the data we give it, and that data reflects all of our history, the good and the bad, then the responsibility for fixing this doesn't just lie with the coders. It lies with all of us to actively and intentionally guide these incredibly powerful tools toward building a future that's more equitable. The question is, what are you going to teach it?